As a punishment for minor crimes, the prisoner was made to lie face down in front of the cell, and was hit 50 to 100 times with a whip on the shoulders, back, and buttocks. This punishment was only applicable to male farmers or townspeople. Samurai, monks, and women were not subject to flogging as a punishment. Tattoos, which could not be easily removed, were ideal as a way to distinguish criminals and as a warning to potential criminals. Designs varied from region to region. The fact that tattoos are still shunned in modern Japan may be rooted in memories of the customs of the time. Exile punishment is when criminals are sent to remote areas or islands and forced to live there during the Edo period. Exile was considered the second worst punishment after the death penalty. In the Edo shogunate, the 100 articles of the Gosho stipulated banishment to the 7 islands of Izu, distant island punishment. In addition, although the situation differed from place to place, in domains with islands, banishment was common, and in domains without, lifelong imprisonment was common. Murder in a fight or theft of more than 10 ryo was punishable by beheading. There were 3 kinds of beheading. The lightest punishment for capital punishment is beheading, and the lightest punishment for beheading is geshinin. Geshinin was prescribed for murder due to a fight or quarrel not related to profit, compared to shizai, which will be discussed later. In geshinin there was no tameshijiri, testing the sharpness of a sword on a corpse, or confiscation of houses and mansions. Next, shizai was a beheading for more serious crimes, in that his body was used for tameshijiri, testing sword sharpness on a corpse. The most severe form of beheading is kyushu, a punishment imposed on the criminal's honor by exposing the decapitated head along with the board inscribed with the crime for 3 days on a busy road. By the way, the mound indicated by the arrow is called datenba, and beheadings and trial cuttings were performed on this mound. Even in modern Japan, the word datenba is used on a daily basis to mean the final moment when something is decided. Beheadings were carried out either on the premises of the Tenmacho prison or at the Kozukapara execution ground, and sometimes the beheadings were exposed on the prison gate platform at the Kozukapara execution ground at the Suzugamori execution ground. Crucifixion was applied to cases such as breaking through a checkpoint, making counterfeit money, or harming one's master or parents. Instead of simply crucifying him, the spear was then dug into and pierced nearly 30 times. This sentence was also carried out at the Kozukapara and Suzugamori execution ground. 2 executioners holding spears lined up on either side of the crucifixion pillar at the signal of the officer. They crossed their spears right in front of the prisoner. Next, with the cry of Arya Arya, the prisoner was skewered with the spear, first from the right flank to the tip of the left shoulder, then from the left flank to the tip of the right shoulder. Thatch is piled up around the bamboo frame to cover the body of the criminal except for his face, and firewood is piled up at his feet and he is made to tread on it, with the fire lit from the windward side. This sentence was also carried out at the Kozukapara and Suzugamori execution ground. Sawing was applied to murder of masters and parents. The criminal was placed naked in a box, buried with only his head above ground for 2 days, and then crucified. Although actual sawing was rare, the aim was to create a psychological fear in passers-by that they might be sawed. The crowd on the opposite bank of the river is the exact site of the incident, which is now a boat dock. The execution took place at the foot of the bridge, going from the Tenmacho prison to Nihonbashi. An additional punishment in which a death row inmate is put on horseback and publicly taken to the execution ground along with a placard listing his crimes. Burning, crucifixion, and sawing are a set. Even decapitation was sometimes added to punishments higher than shizai. It was the most severe punishment ever imposed on a samurai. However, even samurai were not necessarily ordered to commit seppuku, and if it was considered a dishonorable crime, the death penalties mentioned previously were applied. During the Edo period, the age of the samurai, there were punishments that are unimaginable today. This video introduces the punishments used at that time.
切腹じゃ。
They have carried out countless beheadings. What is the surprising reason why he was able to make such a huge profit by performing the dirty job of being an executioner, which regular samurai would not engage in, as it was considered dishonorable? In the Tenmacho prison, prisoners had to endure various forms of torture every day, and murders between prisoners were commonplace. There was also an execution field on the premises of the prison, where decapitations were carried out. At the site, the bell that heralded the execution of a sentence, and the stone wall that used to house the prison still remain. Those who committed the most heinous crimes were carried by horse with their body restrained, and transported to Nihonbashi, the center of Edo. The terrible punishments practiced there. What did the criminals think as they crossed the Bridge of Tears and were transported to Suzugamori execution ground? At this location, there are remains of the well where the heads of decapitated criminals were washed, as well as the foundations used for burning at the stake and crucifixion. The executed bodies were thrown into a nearby temple, so this temple is also called Throwing Temple. A huge jizo that has seen countless executions. This place has a different history than other execution site. This jizo can be seen from the window of the train that carries many commuters towards the center of Tokyo every morning. Human bones are still often unearthed in this area during construction work. It is said that books on the sharpness of swords and books on medicine were completed due to the existence of this execution site. But what was going on at this place? People who were considered unclean and not human were forced to perform tasks such as preparing for the punishment, carrying out the execution, and cleaning up after the punishment. A look into the life of a man who worked at Suzugamori execution ground and became an object of people's faith. Executed in the Edo period commit. And what kind of punishment were they given? Explore their crimes and punishments.
Japan Beat provides information about Japan that is not well known. Thank you for watching until the end. We will be encouraged if you like and subscribe.